When we lead with love, we carry it 24/7. And when we teach with love, we make sure our students don't forget it. To be black and to educate, to be superhero without the applause. It's to show up and show out no matter the cause. It's to play for the students no matter the winner. Because when we work arm in arm, the impact is bigger. Welcome to Untenured Podcast, where educators have a space to speak their truth. So tap in and listen to the very voices that mold our youth.
All right. So bright, bold blessings podcast community. And thank you for joining us for our 5th episode in season 2 of Untenured. We've been cooking up this collab since April. Listen, that's a separate TED Talk, but since April, for some time now, and the ancestral divine timing has landed us in this moment for yet another dope conscious convo for the culture. And you know how our motto goes, speaking your truth can never go left because it's your right. And we're back on the East Coast, but keeping this melanated queen magic going with our next guest. Y ella es panameña, por eso voy a decir que xopá. She's an Afro-Latina CEO and the fuchsia-loving founder of McKenzies Adventures, a global education consulting firm. And when we say global, y'all, we mean global. This has done the Global Hour of Code in Nigeria to her recent travels to keynote in New Zealand. Her passport has receipts. An award-winning, globally recognized ed consultant, presenter, and educator with over 16 years of experience in urban ed. She's one of the newest adjunct professors at CUNY City Tech. And prior to starting her own business, she was a social studies teacher in Brooklyn, New York for 11 years, an assistant principal and a consultant for Microsoft and Samsung Education. As her tagline goes, she's empowering future-ready schools one adventure at a time. So she's a PBL pedagogical powerhouse with purpose, an AI advocate with authenticity, a trailblazing teacher turned thought leader, and a culturally responsive consultant elevating folks through and with educational technology. She's here to help us slide back into our untenured pod rhythm and remind us why multi-hyphenates keep the culture in motion. Folks love to say pick a lane, but multi-hyphenates like her, they're tuned in on the whole highway into their canvas. She's proof that being multi-hyphenate is not confusion, it's connection. So, podcast community, here we go. Help me welcome the innovation instigator, inspiring educators worldwide, Yaritza Villalba.
Oh, you just touched my whole soul. Hi, everyone.
Come on, because I got to do my people right. But moreover, just can we just start here? It's not Yaritza.
It is not Yaritza. It is
not Yaritza. Yeah, so I said it right. Yeah, Lord knows you better have that acento. And so can you tell me why did you choose unresolved? Every guest gets to title that episode with an unword. You picked unresolved. What was sitting on your spirit when you chose that title?
I just think about all the inequities that affect our communities. Usually folks, when I engage in conversations in different countries, they like to, say how innovative New York or US is, how awesome everything looks online. And then I have a question. Who do you mostly see celebrated? Who do you mostly see celebrating when we talk about the advancement of technology or even literacy and math? And then I have to remind folks that, although things have been integrated for some time, we are still segregated, and education is at the forefront of inequalities. And so for me, we still have some issues that are unresolved. And I just am ready for folks to engage in real conversation with what does it look like when our kids are being put in the forefront and our families are given resources so that we can not only compete, but get the chance to show how good we are.
Brilliant. Come on. And I love that you're bringing that to the forefront, because one of the things we're going to tap into later is the access gap versus the belonging gap and how those two merge even in technology fields. So one quick thing as an ode to grandmothers, since our book Museum is part love letter to grandmothers, I have to ask, because I was stalking you low-key on IG, what inspired you to bring McKenzie's great-grandmother, your grandmother, to life in your book? And why is maternal ancestry so meaningful to you?
Well, I'm Afro-Latina. From a young age, I knew exactly where I came from. I knew that my ancestors came from Africa. If you visit Panama, that is there in our dance and our culture and our food. So from a very young age, I knew who I was. But also my great grandmother was a part of that story, right? She would always remind us that she is the daughter of an enslaved woman. Well, she was the daughter of an enslaved woman, and she migrated from Europe to Panama. And so she's the reason why I'm an Afro-Latina. But when I came to America in 1991, it was my grandmother who made the decision for us to migrate here, settle here, and basically said, look, I didn't spend all this money for nothing, right?
Yes,
so she was the face of what I believe and still believe strongly, that womanhood is empowerment, fighting through and making sacrifices, which is what women, especially Black women, we tend to do, right? It's like we're brought up with those skills and those features, and even if we don't want it,
Hello,
you better push through. Somebody's depending on you, right? A community. We hold communities on our backs, and so having and telling the story of McKenzies Bisabuela was me paying homage to my grandmother, but also sharing her stories with my daughter McKenzie and saying, you come from a lineage of women who are doing the damn thing, and we did it with nothing. And I need her to understand that, you know, life is not going to be easy as an Afro-Latina. You are a Black girl in America. People are going to tell you that you're not capable of doing things. But then when they do, I need you to go back to the story and see that we started with nothing. It was 12 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment first, then a 4-bedroom apartment, before finally my mom had 5 jobs and we can move out. So we know what struggle is like, but I don't want her to focus on the struggle aspect. It's on what were we able to accomplish with nothing.
Yes. And I love that you're bringing that to the forefront, just the empowerment and power of Black women. And not to stay on this point, but it's been coming up as a common theme season 2. Season 1, episode 10, we had a brother named Asif Wilson from Chicago. And he gave us this sentence stem that I said, anytime it feels befitting, I'm bringing it up in this untenured convo. So here's the sentence. If we had listened to Black women yesterday, how would you finish the rest of that sentence, especially fresh off of what you said with your bisabuela? If we had only listened to Black women yesterday, what's the rest of that sentence?
Trump wouldn't be president.
Girl! Okay, so there's things that you think, and then sometimes they just don't come out in conversation. And then there's things that you're thinking and someone says, thank you. And if you don't understand why that's powerful, that's a separate TED Talk. That's a separate TED Talk. But staying in that lane of powerful Black women, one of the things I asked you all the way back in April when I first reached out about connecting was a dynamic Black woman that you felt was either historic or present that motivates you. And you named Dr. Adelaide Sanford. Can you tell us how she shaped you in the way you move, lead, or even dream?
So I attended Boys and Girls High School, and
the high?
I went to the high, and then I came back to teach at the high. So yeah.
So my first teaching position out of college, Mr. McKenzies, I almost worked there. Anyway, that's an offline conversation. Go ahead. You went to the high.
Well, Mick was the principal for all of us that came to America. For my cousins, my brother, my siblings, myself. So he was already close to my mom in so many ways. But being able to attend Boys and Girls, you are being taught by educators who look like you, who have experienced things that you have, and who understand that, yes, academic is important, but maybe today, this moment, we can't focus on this lesson because you're not 100%. And I was introduced to Dr. Adelaide Sanford from Dr. Christopher Smith, who's one of my mentors. And just the idea of finding joy and equity in education for Black and Brown students has always been her focus. And so listening to her speak, being able to present now as an adult in her conferences, right? In her summits, and knowing that I've heard her speak growing up. I was mentored by folks in which she has mentored. And so there's this clear message of when I stand in front of people, I'm not only representing myself, I'm representing an entire community of children, women, men, who look like me, who have experienced life the way that I have, and who want better, right? Like, I often talk about this intersectionality of struggles within the Black community and in marginalized communities, where we're constantly trying to, fight racism. We're constantly fighting for gender equality. We are tired of people putting down our Black men or finding excuses for us as to why we're not successful in a particular area that we may not even be interested in.
Hello.
We're not even interested. What do you mean that's the Black struggle? So for me, having a woman like Dr. Adelaide Sanford, who for me was like, she was on a pedestal. I can hear her speak. I sometimes just put on, her videos on YouTube, and I sit back and I just go, yes, yes, yes. Some folks may pull out MLK. I pull out Dr. Adelaide Sanford because she's going to be honest. She's going to be realistic. She's always going to ruffle feathers, but she says so with love.
Yes. And very inspiring, not only to get us to unlearn, but to stay grounded in our truth and our why. And I circling back to a comment you made as soon as we kicked off, because I love that you came in with muy sabor. You were like, let's talk about this digital divide of Black and brown kids, right? And so in 2023, there was a survey by ACT of US students, Black and Hispanic students, and saying that they were more likely than their white or Asian peers to rely on monthly cellular data plans for internet access. And so although this is just one data point, much research points to the fact that access is still unequal, right? Device availability, broadband quality, reliance on mobile versus fixed internet, all impacting Black and brown kids. How do you see the digital divide playing out in the classrooms or schools you support?
Ooh. So, because I see it firsthand, right? When I create initiatives, I mostly share with folks that at the center of my initiatives is always access.
Mm-hmm.
These initiatives are fun, but they mean nothing if students cannot access it both in the classroom and at home, right? If we are pushing for students to become independent learners and independent thinkers and computational thinkers, we have to give them access to tools that they're able to experiment and explore with at home. Yeah. Sadly, in the United States, there's this huge digital divide. There's this huge gap in access. And folks keep saying achievement, there's an achievement gap. And I know for sure it isn't just an achievement gap, but it's a resource gap, right? Because if you put the right people and the right tools in front of our students, you will see that it's not about just literacy and math. It's about resources.
And in human capital.
And hello.
The tool and have a raggedy racist holding the right tool, you right back to square one.
You back to square one. So for those of you who are already following me, and for those of you who are going to become followers, in 2026, we're launching an initiative to help close that digital divide. It's called Leveling the Digital Playing Field. It is designed for student athletes in regards to leveraging ed tech skills for workforce development, right? This idea that, especially in Black and brown communities, we emphasize this hoop dream, this pro sport agenda with our kids. And the problem is colleges are not supporting our kids the way they need to, right? They're forcing our kids to take up liberal arts. Yeah. They're not even being able to obtain skills for workforce development.
But they're extracting their athletic talent without pouring into them for post-athleticism.
That's it, right? And that makes you think about when we were enslaved Africans and what they were using us for, and these traveling zoos and museums and checking out our bodies to figure out why we are shaped the way that we're shaped, right? So that story goes
way back,
all the way back in time. But this idea that we are also responsible for ensuring that our students have access to technology, but access to skills and workforce development in regards to industry certification. And that's exactly what we're doing.
And I love that you're bringing that forward, because another thing, as a math teacher at the start of my career in 2005, like the big thing was calculus. That was like the holy grail, right? You take calc and it's like you're the math person or you're not, or you're on this track, right? Yeah. And not to say that calculus doesn't have its place, but in our current times, I've been arguing, and I'm sure you'll agree, like coding and AI, if you can't leverage those things, you won't be replaced by AI, but you'll be replaced by someone who's using it, because they'll be using it more appropriately and they'll be more efficient with time. And it really is a tool that, whether we subscribe to it or not, we've got to teach our young people the language, or they're going to get left behind even more so.
Oh, absolutely. I did a pitch for a big brand a couple of weeks ago, and I shared the data that if a student has at least one digital skill, they're more likely to be paid 23% more. Think about what that means for our students in under-resourced communities.
Come on.
23% more from just obtaining a digital skill.
And being able to accumulate generational wealth, right? And like literally have upward mobility to this dream in America that we. Wow. I love that data point. You know, I'm going to steal it, but I'm going to quote you. But I'm going to be like,
steal it.
Yaritza told me.
As you should steal it. But we have to stop. We have to stop thinking about what our students are doing wrong, right? I had a conversation with someone in regards to our students are scamming, right? It's the holidays, so everybody's cards are getting hit. And I said, you know what the problem with that is? We're not showing them that skill can be used for them to become ethical hackers, right? So why are we not? I don't want to focus on the fact that they hit your card. I'm sorry, you should have took better security measures. Nobody told you to see your card.
Two-step authentication.
Hello. So it's your fault right now. We're in 2025. I applaud that kid not for stealing your data and breaching it, but for sharing that he or she has a skill that we need to tap into, which is ethical hacking. Why aren't we teaching that? Why aren't we teaching them that, as 18-year-olds, they can graduate with these certifications that when they are ready to go into cybersecurity, corporate America is paying them to hack the systems.
Yes. And you also making me think of this comment from a recent PD. Teachers have this supreme fear of AI where they're like, oh, they'll be cheating. And I'm like, well, really, this is a call for us to change the way we assess and teach. Mm-hmm. Because to think you can leave it out the classroom, that's just super naive and ignorant. What we need to be asking is, how do we adapt our assessments and cultivate our practice as pedagogues to build critical thinkers? So even if they're using it, they still have to know how to think and to assess the accuracy or even the reasonableness of what AI is putting out, which makes me want to ask you more importantly, like, how do you think we can ensure that AI or tech tools used in schools don't perpetuate bias? Because there's that whole idea that, the stereotypes and the gaps and the deficit thinking that lives in humanity, if we're humans building said tool, we're just reinforcing it or we're remixing those stereotypes and biases in a new way. What say you?
So I said this a couple of months ago in New Zealand. I said, since when, as a human population, have we just easily taken someone's word for it? With AI, I don't trust it. I use it, right? But it's kind of like I use it to outline. Hey, here are my thoughts. Can you write me an outline for a 45-minute session? And then I literally, if it gives me a direct quote, I'm instantly going to Google that quote. If the internet is full of sources that already contain biases, AI is only pulling those resources and generating a response for you from those resources. So 9 times out of 10, it contains the same biases that were already out there on the web, right? And we can't blame AI for that. We have to think about AI as a tool. I've heard people say a companion. I always say it's just another resource. And in regards to the tech platforms, always ask the question, who wasn't included in this idea when the tech platform was created? Every tech platform that I use have to have some form of accessibility tool and some form of translation tool.
Yeah.
With being a person that English is not my first language, although it's my dominant language now, it's not my first. I speak Castellano. We know that is one of the oldest forms of Spanish, which means my dialect is totally different than most Spanish-speaking countries. Yeah. And so I'll go into the translation tool to say, okay, what's missing? What's missing? Because I don't want it. Right. I just don't want it to translate to Spanish. I want your platform to acknowledge that there are different dialects in Spanish. And if your platform doesn't do that, then you're already excluding billions of students from using your platform or families from using your platform. And so it's all fun and games to choose things that can create for us, that can turn our text into a podcast, that can turn our images into cartoons. We have to teach students the skill. We have to teach students how to problem solve. What happens if that tool created something that looks totally different from you? I remember using something that Disney created 2 years ago, and I remember sharing it on TikTok. It changed my entire complexion. And I tagged Disney, and I was like, come on, Disney, you got to do better.
What you doing? Do better.
Do better. Because I wanted to use the AI tool with my daughter, but what I don't want is for her to question her. Hello. So for me, it's, as adults, we have to learn how to question, but what's next? If it didn't come out the way that you want it to come out, we know that prompt engineering is a skill.
Yes.
Right? Forget about the AI tool. If we teach prompt engineering, students should be able to not only write essays, because you're typing, you're writing, you're resolving, you're questioning, you're asking for reasoning, you're setting a claim, but they should also be able to debate.
Yes. I look at communication.
That's it. So that's how I look at it, right? I don't look at it as this is a tool that can create things. I say, how does this align to what we're already teaching in the classroom? How does it align to the standards and the skills that students need? I looked at Portrait of a Graduate for New York State. I said, okay, so how is it the programs and initiatives that I've created from McKenzies Adventures, how does that align to what New York State students?
Oh, it's all 6: effective communicator, reflective future focus, global citizen. You all up in there.
Everything. But that's what teachers should be worried about. You shouldn't be worried about if AI is cheating. First of all, you Google half your lessons anyway.
Tell it. You better tell it.
We know you Googled it because it's not culturally censored. We know you Googled it. It's not culturally, it's not for your kids.
You're kidding. Who are you
kidding?
It's
not for your kids. So the cheating question should be, I don't even know why we're still engaging in this conversation. I think the more important conversation is why are school districts investing so much in AI and not their teacher prep programs or their teachers?
Hello. So we're going to null and void that right there. And again, you can follow Yaritza on IG at McKenzies Adventures. It's cut off there, sis. What's the other one? Your personal one at Yaritza.v?
Oh, at Yaritza.b__.
Okay, __. I'll make sure it's in the description box and all that jazz. But let's get a little bit off about your EdTech dopeness and hit one of our micro segments. It's our culturally responsive educational twist on, would you rather? Are you ready? 2 options, no fence sitting. You got this. Come on. You just like a whole dissertation in 21 minutes. You ready? All right, here we go. Would you rather teach the teachers or coach the coaches?
Ooh, coach the coaches.
Okay. Sweet potato pie or peach cobbler?
Peach cobbler.
Okay. Preserving cultural traditions in the classroom or innovating with global perspectives?
Can I choose both? Because I do both.
You know what? November 28th is Panama's Independence Day. And I'm just going to let you rock this week. All right. That's the one. You only get one more pass. Use it wisely. All right. Abuela's advice or a mentor's wisdom?
Abuela's advice.
AI as a tool for equity or AI as a tool for efficiency?
Oh, efficiency.
Global Zoom call or neighborhood block brainstorming session?
Ooh, neighborhood block brainstorming session.
Okay, this one gets them every time. Insecure or girlfriends?
Wait, what is it?
Insecure or Girlfriends, the shows?
Oh, Insecure. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Sorry. That's a separate TED Talk. Go back and meet your great-great-grandparents or forward in time and meet your great-great-grandchildren?
Oh, my great-great-grandparents.
Equity audit or empathy walk?
Equity audit.
Wicked or The Wiz?
The Wiz. Come on.
Wait, you picking Diana over Cynthia?
The Wiz, and it has to be the one with Michael Jackson. The Wiz.
Okay, you said what you said. Restorative circle or kitchen table talk?
Restorative circle.
A child's question that stumps you or a student breakthrough that wows you?
Come on.
And this is only one micro segment, so don't do yourself dirty.
A child's question that stumps me.
Okay, spicy food or spicy conversation?
You know I'm a foodie. I gotta do spicy food. You know I'm greedy.
I told you I was stalking you on IG, so I'm trying to give you some challenging ones.
I'm greedy and I love spicy food.
Guys, virtual field trips or real world adventures?
Real world adventures.
Podcast mic or classroom mic?
Classroom mic.
And last spicy one, spades or Uno?
Uno, I don't know how to play spades. I grew up only playing I Declare War. I didn't grow up. I mean, spades was not in my household. I told you I'm Afro-Latina. Like, we played that. We played dominoes.
I'm gonna call you. We're gonna work on that this year. That'll be my New Year resolution. When you're not booked and busy globally, we're gonna work on spades. All right. So in the spirit of play as a form of education, what are some of your favorite EdTech tools to use in your learning experience with teachers or students? Do you have like faves that you go to?
Yes and no. I'm constantly trying to explore new tools. And now that I'm in a lot of schools, I try to use the tools that they've already committed themselves to. Or
yes, purchased.
crazy amount of money on, then I'm just like, why did you do this when you could have just gave
without consulting me?
Yeah, like you could have just gave them a graphing paper for this. We could have learned algorithms with paper and pen the way that I teach students in Nigeria, right? Yes. But I would definitely say, and so platforms.
Yes.
I use code.org for a lot of my projects because of the accessibility. So I have students from around the world creating different apps that are aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I have kids ages 6 years old that are coding in code.org, right? Because it's literally designed for kids. So once again, being strategic with what I use. When I was in a classroom, I would teach history through VR glasses. So anytime we talked about war, I would have students put the glasses on and literally it puts them in that field. Yes. And I mean, my class would sound crazy because you got kids going, oh my God, they shooting at me, they shooting at me. But the lesson then went to technology and how different weapons changed the art of war, right? Now they're able to talk about it more because they're like, I was in the middle of the field. And then I'm like, okay, let's talk about science now. What does war do to the environment, but also the land? So gameplay in regards to tying it in with your lessons is always a plus. And then I'm old school on this one. I love using Jeopardy. I think that it is an awesome way to have students think about questioning, about how they're going to answer, which can also be replicated on paper, but getting them to think, sit with the response, you're being timed, and now you're giving me an answer, right? So I just feel like we don't have to use technology for everything. I know whenever I do Jeopardy, there's like this one template that I use and I just type in the questions on Google Slides and call it a day. But there are so many different tech tools that you can use for gameplay with students. I've used Minecraft for education before, where students are literally creating their own sustainable cities. So it all depends on what the goal is.
And the context. And I love that you're lifting that, right? Because the tool, whether it's the platform or the ed tech app, that's just the resource, right? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, you have to have some sabor, some picante, right? Because
adobo,
sofrito, something, because it's a tool dangling there. It's also the connection in the way that you spice it up. And so speaking of that, a lot of what you do seems and looks very charismatic. And so one of the things we love to ask all the educators on our pod is, if you could name an artist whose swag matches your educational vibe, what would it be? Like Yaritza goes on tour and she's fill in the blank. You can blend. Some people are blending.
I'm gonna have to blend because I feel like my soul is jazz mixed with hip hop, mixed with salsa merengue, mixed with Little Kim. Like I'm everywhere with it. But I think that it all depends on the theme of my workshops and keynotes, right? Sometimes I get on stage and it's depending on the feeling. I'm very Duke Ellington. I'm very just like, smooth with it, like, all right, here we are. Right. And then sometimes I come out, if it's like thousands of people in a crowd, I am very much Foxy Brown. I am very much like them. Like it's in your face and I'm moving from side to side. And I'm like, well, did you hear that question? That's me. But most days I am very like Kendrick Lamar. Like, I try to be very poetic with my wording, with trying to convince people that things haven't changed, but we are responsible for the change that we want for our kids. And that's so Kendrick. That is so me. I know people usually be like, girl, you don't walk on that stage like you were Beyonce. And then I'm like, no, I'm about to be smooth with it like Kendrick. I'm about to be smooth.
Love it. There was no doubt. It was one of my questions, but I wasn't asking you K-Dot or Drake. You came out the gate and already told me. So we got a K-Dotter here. So then my next question is, would you say that your hype song is one by K-Dot? So one of the things we do on our pod is we have a pod playlist and every guest gets to pick their hype song. You wake up, you're dragging, the weather is weathering or life is lifing, but you got this keynote. So you got to pull it together and like pump it up. What are you playing on your radio to get you hype?
Okay. So I'm a Pandora girl. So, I'm not just playing one person. I play like playlists. So normally if I need to get like real hype and I got these long drives, I'm playing salsa.
Okay.
Girl, because every time I listen to salsa, it just reminds me of my mom. My mom lives in Panama now, but it soothes me. It calms me down. So when she was living in Brooklyn, I could always just be like, let me stop by her house real quick because she's about to, tell me, Yaritza, calamate, right?
Yeah,
you don't know my favorite line. You don't know these people. It's okay.
So was she a salsera? She was a salsera through and through?
Yes, through and
did she have
through.
a favorite artist?
Not that I know of. See, like my mom didn't just play like one song, and now she's a minister, but she didn't just play like one song. Like she would clean the house, and it's everything.
It's everything.
Dengue, baila, and you cleaning, pero tú estás moviendo, like you moving. But I'm a Pandora girl, so it's definitely a salsa playlist. It gets me going. I know some people listen to rap. I'm a total opposite. I don't listen to rap when I'm about to go on stage, just because it gets me too hype.
And not everybody's ready for
not everybody's
unplugged. They're not,
especially not if it's a conversation about race. So I be having I gotta meet people where they are sometimes.
And we only got 40 minutes. Are you giving me all these reasons to go on a tangent? And it's so hard. You're making it so hard. All right. So then last tangent, because we're talking salsa, K-Dot, Super Bowl. 1, how did K-Dot Super Bowl performance hit you? And 2, are you ready for Bad Bunny? You got people out here with the horrible acentos trying to say, Titi me pregunto, they're just horrible. How you feeling about Bad Bunny and how did K-Dot hit you?
Well, K-Dot performance, I mean, it gave what needed to be given, right? I think for me, it wasn't about his performance. It was more about him being in that space.
Yeah.
It was about us as a collective, seeing someone who, I mean, not only looked like us, but his songs, the way he choreographs it, the clothes makes me feel like I was a part of that. Yes. Anytime I see anything that was choreographed by him or put together by him, I'm like, okay, that speaks to who I am. That speaks to my culture. So I don't think that was mostly about him, being the center of.
No, not at all. And there's so many layers, and he's so cerebral and academic and scholarly, but then grounded. Like he's neighborhood in Hollywood, just like the perfect stone.
I felt so involved. I was like, okay, yes.
I'm definitely going to text you during the Super Bowl. Then we'll see how Bad Bunny does. But I love how everybody's like, it's not American. I'm like, we're just going to leave that there. All right, we're going to leave that there. So in the spirit of being a bookseum, another thing we love to ask is, can you name a book that built you? When you think about how you came to be, you have these beautiful stories of heritage, culture from your family. You inspired by mentors like Dr. Sanford. But was there a book that really grounded you or helped you shape your identity? Or maybe 2 or 3?
Ooh, and I think I should have some behind me too.
Yes, bookshelf.
Yes. So I don't know if y'all can see Fugitive Pedagogy. That was like one of the first serious books that were introduced to me in college. So obviously I read books before college, but I always read books, especially in high school, just to do assignments. It wasn't like I read the books and I was like, oh my God, this is a part of me. In elementary, I used to recite poems. So I used to recite a lot of Langston Hughes poems. But in college, I was an Africana Studies major. And Fugitive Pedagogy was one of those books that was first introduced to me. And I was like, oh my.
Earth-shattering. God.
Oh my God.
All right. Fugitive Pedagogy.
But a book that I kind of like leveraged when I was starting my business, and some people might disagree with this, but it's Team of Rivals about Abraham Lincoln. I chose that book. You should have seen my friends' faces like, oh my God, you really reading that book about that man? And I said, yes, because I'm a strategist. And when you're a strategist, think about what's the best way to meet a specific goal. Yeah. And the biggest learning curve for me with this book was it's okay to surround yourself by people who you don't get along with. They might have a skill and possess a skill that you lack and you don't possess, right? So it's not necessarily teaming yourself up with people that you like. I feel like that's a flaw, especially in business. We like to hire people that are closest to us or that we like or that makes us laugh. And we don't think about the people who are going to take our business to the next step.
Yes, challenge our thinking.
It has to be. So Team of Rivals is definitely one of those books that I go back and I read all the time, especially when I hire new folks, because it's like, oh, I know I don't like her, but I think I don't like her because she's already saying, hey, we need to change this. And that's what I do. I need a person that's not going to please me in that sense.
Well, what a beautiful mindset to have. And that's why your business is like booked, busy, and thriving. And shout out to your 1 year anniversary, because another thing I saw on your Instagram is like you bet on yourself and did a very radical left turn, which was the right turn as a plot twist for that trajectory professionally. And you built your own, and it's thriving and it's beautiful. And I think your insight into your thinking on how you're growing your business. I mean, I don't love that it's an Abe Lincoln book, but I love what it's doing for your business and your platform. So shout out to that.
Listen,
but we
the girls don't like Abe. The girls don't like Abe Lincoln. And I don't like them neither, but it's not about the person. It's about the message.
Okay. All right. But I'm still going to link to the pedagogy, but we'll put the other one in the footnote.
Yeah, that you don't even have to link it. But I think people should know, right? Yeah. Like if you're trying to be if you're a strategic person, then that is a book to read. You don't have to like the person, but the message
and divergent thinking, right? That's where you get your innovation and your creativity, right? Not everybody's saying yes and being the same. So I love that. I love that. And as a multi-hyphenate, episode 14, your predecessor, Dr. Asia Lyons, she is heavy on a message of Black educators thriving and resting and staying hydrated. And one of her posts was about the myths about why you can't rest. And although it was a global message for anyone, the underscoring for me was about Black women, right? And how we just, that paradox about being the strong Black woman that could put everything on her back. But I want to swing away from that stereotype and ask you, like, what restores you? How do you rest so that you can stay rejuvenated in your work?
Listen, I use my daughter as an excuse to say I need rest. I'm not really good at pausing and stopping. And I think that a lot of it is because I'm afraid of failing. And that's another conversation that we don't have as Black women. For me, especially as an immigrant, if I fail, that means I can't help my mom who lives in Panama. I can't help my siblings who still live in Panama. And having people who are dependent on me means I have to work 10 times as hard, right? But then constantly being reminded that my family made sacrifices for me to be here in America. So my path and my journey doesn't look the same as everybody else's. And although we have experienced some things alike, for me, I have to work 10 times harder because I have a family that's literally dependent on my success. But when I see my daughter, like I remember she was in private school last year. She's a 4-year-old now, but we started her in school last year. And they did an activity and it said like for Mother's Day. And it said, what is mommy's favorite thing to do? And she put work. What does mommy do all day? Work. And that hit me because sometimes I work from home and when she's off, she just sees me work. And so I've made a mental note that when she does get home from school, this has to stop, right?
Yeah.
Because working it doesn't solve all of our problems. It honestly, in our world, sometimes it creates more. But yeah, that reset has now come from me seeing my daughter acknowledging like, I need to move away from this desk, right? If I don't answer an email today, it's okay. The business is still running or folks are still to get a response from me. But the year before when I first started the company, while I was still working a 9 to 5, it was insane. Like I was waking up 2 o'clock in the morning to just do like presentation. And I do presentations still 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But when I first started, it was like every day. I was like 4 hours of sleep.
Well, listen, y'all, she's a mother first and foremost. And so ease up, you'll get that response. And when you get it, it'll be fabulous. It'll be all things you need. But she's a mother. She's a mother and she rests in motherhood. And so shout out to that for sure. So we're going to switch gears a little bit to break it up and go to our second micro segment called Deuces. And so this is a segment where we don't just talk about change. We call out the mess that's holding education back. I've got 3 harmful realities lined up for you. And your job is simple. Choose one. Now listen, sis. You already used one hall pass. You only get one more. No fence sitting. Choose one and toss it the hardest deuces you've got. No playing it safe, no both sides energy. We're naming the harm so we can make room for something better. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. First one. Digital tools as decoration syndrome. One size fits all curriculum culture. Or assessment that punishes and does not illuminate.
Are you serious?
Please don't throw the water at me.
Oh, all of them, but let's definitely the assessment piece. Let's take that out.
Okay, assessment that punishes and not illuminates. Okay, here's the next one: policing how our kids talk, policing how our kids act, or policing how our kids dress in school?
Policing how our kids talk.
Hello, duality matters.
Hello.
Trilingualism, all that. Let it rock. Let it rock.
I switch it up when I'm in front of kids.
Hello, and I just did a post. What did I say? I said you can be a bookworm and like annotate in slang. Yeah. Right? Because those are your notes, your highlights. So whatever voice is coming out as you're engaging with text, those notes are for you. Don't let anybody shame you into like, oh, where's your verb, noun, agreement, and your okay. Anyway, separate TED Talk. Next one. Districts that post Black squares but ghost Black staff. Schools that love Black culture but not Black critique. Or leaders who quote Dr. King and then silence living activists like Dr. Adelaide Sanford.
Oh, I gotta go with the leaders. That's direct. Like you're in front of students as well, right? But the district, I could ignore some things with the district. Sometimes it doesn't even get to the students. But the leaders, y'all dead wrong.
You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. All right, here's the next one. The tech for surveillance, not support trap. Gatekeeping coding and STEM, so only those kids get it. Or schools checking the PBL box by giving projects that are really just trifold boards with directions to follow.
Man,
you persevere in your head. I can feel it.
I want to get away with the whole list. Got to go. But what was the first one again?
Tech surveillance, technology for surveillance, not support.
Okay, let's take that out.
Okay, boom, you're gone. Next one: whitewashed curriculum, white savior mentality, or white fragility.
Oh, you said I got to pass. All right. What has always, and I'm going to use this terminology, what has always irked my nerves was that white savior complex, especially when we're thinking about them as in white females or white males entering predominantly Black spaces and feeling like they got to save our kids, which turns out to just be more dramatic. I mean, traumatic for our kids.
It's dramatic and traumatic. It's both. It's dramatic and traumatic. All right, so we getting rid of white savior mentality. Two more. Districts chasing politics and optics instead of outcomes. Equity leaders spending more time convincing adults than serving kids. Or schools confusing representation with transformation.
What about districts who are literally focused more on social media engaged than they are on moving their kids? Can we add that so that I can take that out? But
girl, we love a first here at Sadie's, so she's giving us a whole new one. And watch the next guest and going forward, that's going to be on theirs. Districts that are more focused on their social media presence than their presence in buildings to serve kids.
Yes.
Come on, mic drop. Podcast done. All right. Teachers expected to innovate but never given the time to do so. Teachers who teach in low-income communities, but only until the loan forgiveness requirement is met.
That one. Don't even give me the next option. That one. I talked about that one in one of my keynotes last year. Yeah,
it's a real thing. Now, I am New York City teaching fellow. Like literally, they would be there in droves, and then as soon as their loans were paid off because of the transitional fee, they were out. It was like this mass exodus. All right. Well, the last one was teachers who are willing to teach Black and brown kids, but not learn from Black and brown. But you sticking with your answer, the loan forgiveness.
My answer.
All right, loan forgiveness. All right, perfect. She's saying, oh, hell no to that, which is the perfect segue to our next segment called Oh, hell no. Now, you get to pick the topic. What are we saying oh, hell no to, other than white savior mentality and teaching in low income communities till your loan's paid off? What else you want to say oh, hell no to?
I mean, can we talk about, Trump's attempt to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education? Not only that,
because I'm not a professional anymore.
They're deeming as professional. Hello, that's the way I was going. Because what?
I can't. So what happens to professional development? I'm not not to be that person, but if educators, nurses, occupational therapists, social workers. So why are you saying oh hell no, other than the obvious?
I mean, we still know that inequities have always existed, right? But for it to be strategically in our faces, it's not like it's being done behind our backs. It's kind of like this, let me take away all the resources, which are limited, that you have access to, and let me shift the power of the states, right? Which we already know is going to impact our marginalized students and communities. Then I'm going to cut funding to Title I and say
federal loans that support those roles. Come
Hello,
on.
that benefit low income and minority students. And then I'm going to promote student choice and vouchers so that students and funding can go to private schools and charter schools. And then I'm going to weaken the federal protections that at one point helped us out a little something, right? By widening these racial achievement gaps and resource gaps. So I'm saying, oh, hell no, because one, it's not new, right? But at some point, we as a people have to do better at creating opportunities for our kids so that when situations like this happen, it's not impacting us the way that it is impacting us. Our families should know more about Title I funding. Our families should know more about what happens when you take away or give power to the federal government or the states. They should know about how this government runs, because if they understood this a lot more, he would not be in office.
Hello. But one thing I will give him, and this is like half of a thing, he told us every harmful thing he was going to do. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Absolutely.
So it really was on us. And going back to that question, if we had just listened to Black women yesterday, so it'll be very interesting to see how this goes, because I'm not a professional anymore. I don't even know how to handle that.
But also think about it, right? And I was engaging in this conversation the other day with my daughter's dad, and I said, in an abusive relationship, normally it's harder for the person being abused to leave because that's all they know. And for us on the outside, we're like, girl, he's hitting you, you're getting abused, or man, she's hitting you, you're being abused. But that's all they know. And that's America. That is America. All America knows is abuse of power. All America knows is imperialism, dollar diplomacy, how to take more from the poor to keep the rich richer, right? We're going to constantly, and when I say we, I mean those people that voted for him, are going to constantly be put in this place because we are abused, and we have gotten so used to the abuse that even when somebody says, oh, I'm giving away with SNAP, there's no more SNAP benefits, I'm going to make sure that, I do everything in my power so that a specific group and community are not benefiting from federal funds. I'm going to make sure that I take out all immigrants or illegal immigrants or aliens from this country. When someone says that, because you're so abused and so used to it, you're just like, oh, he's just talking to talk. He's talking to talk. He's fun to listen to, right? As opposed to saying, let me sit down and let me do some research and figure out how does this really impact my family? Because when I look at the new TikToks and Instagram stories on what Trump has done, and I voted for him, but I didn't think it was going to affect me, I go, oh, okay, then you were just either one, oblivious, or you are what I call the uncivilized people.
Yes.
Right? Because a civilized person is going to read. I'm read. You're an uncivilized person.
Girl, that might be a t-shirt.
You
uncivilized. Like you are not civilized.
We read everything else. If you follow somebody on social media, you read all their captions, you read the comments, who's following who. But we forgot to read about or read through the lines, but also the things that were in our face. Then you're uncivilized. You're what I call an uncivilized person.
We might have to collab on a t-shirt. I'm dead serious.
I'm dead serious.
I love that definition of civilized versus uncivilized. It's all in the fine print, and really in the actual print. You are a selective bookworm.
That's it.
Well, we saying, oh, hell no. Bold, caps, underline, italicized in the largest AI 3D font we could find, because, he's doing what he said he would do. But more importantly, we have the power, and we need to be empowering our communities, our parents, our students to understand these things so they can really give themselves the edge. Oh my gosh. I really, I never even thought of it that way. So you're blowing my mind about that. We're in an abusive relationship in this country. So this last segment, they say, you say, we know what it is to be in spaces and decide, am I going to give you the Duke Ellington answer or the Foxy Brown, right? Am I about to spit it straight or give it to you filtered? And this is your chance unequivocally to say the first thing that comes to mind, to clap back to something stereotypical, harmful, or just flat out ignorant that you might hear. Now, this pod is for grown folks. So Mackenzie, if you're there, this is not for you. This is when you turn it off. But expletives allowed. You ready?
I got you.
So they say, oh, Afro-Latina girls, they can be a lot in the classroom. Attitude first, academics second. You say,
The fucking nerve. The nerve. The nerve. As a kid who was an ESL, I was forced to be an ESL because of this American system, right? When I came to work, I was really young, so adapting to English was the easy part. But I was an ESL from the time that I was in elementary school until the time I graduated high school. At Boys and Girls, I was an ESL. Yes, they called it native. They called it native. And it wasn't until I became a teacher that I realized, okay, schools received more funding for me being an ESL student as opposed to them telling my mom that I could test out. But we are loud because we have things to say. And we're not afraid to say the things that most of you keep your mouths closed about. I go into spaces and I go, but demon, like tell me, because I'll say it out loud.
Yes.
I'll say it out loud. For so many years, our people, Black and brown people, have been silenced. And now I'm just like, I want to, if
bust down the door,
here, I'm going to you. And I'm going to leave people uncomfortable because people tend to think more critically when they are uncomfortable. That's when they begin to think about their own biases. That's when they get to question perspectives. That's when they begin to think, shit, is it my white fragility?
Yes.
Did I contribute to this? And so if I have to make you uncomfortable so that you can reflect on how you contributed to it, then baby, then my loudness, okay. If it makes you uncomfortable, that's what it is.
Yes, claro que sí. All right, so I love it. They say technology can't be a tool for social justice. That's not what that's for. You say.
You're a fool. You're a fool. And as a person that believes in restorative circles and restorative justice, I've leveraged technology on so many different aspects to ensure that restorative practices are made accessible and available to students around the world.
Yeah.
So you're a fool.
You're a fool, flat out. Period. They say it's impossible to innovate and stick to district rules. Like, do you know what district I'm in? Fill in the blank. Like, you want me to innovate? I can't do that here.
Well, I normally tell people define innovation, right? Define innovation, because innovation to me looks different. When I was in a classroom, I remember people saying, my students who were ages 16 to 21 were reading on the 4th grade reading level. And so my students had already spent 8 years in high school and they were taking AP US history and they were passing exams. And I would say my practices are different because I'm allowing my students to create and explore and be okay with being wrong, right? But my innovative practices was meeting my students where they were. So if you're struggling to write full-blown paragraphs, then baby boy, let's start off with one sentence first.
Hello.
And that sentence is going to be a question, because y'all as kids love to ask questions. Y'all love to start some stuff in this classroom. Starting with an essay, right? And so it's please.
Okay, stop it. And my answer was going to be, hire McKenzies Adventures. They'll help you.
I didn't even think about that, but we will.
Listen, they will. They definitely will. Okay, so they say project-based learning is too messy. Kids from those communities, they need structure, not creativity. You say.
Who's those? Those communities? Who's those communities? Project-based learning is universal. I spent 3 separate months in Singapore because they hired me to do project-based learning with their students. And there wasn't not one Black student in that school, that private school, that paid a lot of money for project-based learning. It is a tool that centers cultural response to sustained education, joy, creativity, here goes that word again, innovation, and practices that are going to allow students to explore, solve problems, and then create prototypes that can probably solve an issue within your community.
Hello. They say imagination is nice to have, not a must have. You say.
Damn, y'all wasn't dreaming when y'all was kids? Because my best projects, and even this initiative that I talked about earlier, has been created because I have a form of imagination. McKenzies Adventures was created because I want my daughter to have an imagination. I want her to take people on adventures. I want to continue taking people on adventures that explores what education looks like outside of the classroom. That is using your imagination.
Hello. And you're making me think of, I know you know this name, Dr. Chris Emden. He was on a pod and he said, if we're not dreaming, no matter how creative you think you are, you're really just replicating.
That's it.
So the dream is where the new thing happens. So if you can't dream, that you might have to figure out a way to order some on Amazon if it's not on Backstop. Actually, no, we're not supposed to be shopping Amazon, right?
We're not. No, we're not going to shop in Target.
We are Target. So they say parents in multilingual or immigrant families, they don't engage with tech, so it's pointless to offer those tools. You say, and the look says it all. I'm gonna skip that one because I don't want to get cursed out, even though it's not directed at me. She's like, the look says it all. That's her answer.
Because that's just, I was taught to never say something is stupid, but that's an uncivilized response, right? I teach parents and families in Uniondale School District. I teach them how to leverage AI for literacy to show their kids how to read in English. And it's not that the parents don't deserve to have access to tools. It's not that the parents don't want to have access to tools. It's no one's giving them access to the tools. You're not even trying. You're excluding us already. And that's what I talked about earlier, right? The education system is still segregated.
Yes. And so follow up to that. They say, what's a good follow to that? All kids can have equal access to tech. Just give them a laptop. There it is. Access. Boom. You say.
What did COVID teach us? That even with a laptop, some of y'all, the adults didn't even know what to do. Some of the adults, what's that mean? What's that mean when a cat is typing like this? Some of the adults didn't even know what to do.
Just laws. And lastly, out of the beautiful honoring of your dopeness, I know this will resonate because I'm sure you've heard it, and it's also offensive. They say, "Oh, you're so impressive for someone with your background." You say,
that is so cringe. Like, I hate it, and hate is a strong word, but I hate the assumptions that people make when it comes down to having a Black woman. I'm not just going to say a person of color, a Black woman in a space that for thousands of years or hundreds of years, we haven't even been able to penetrate. And so now that I penetrated, you think what? That this just happened to happen, or it was by luck?
Osmosis. You're the exception, not the rule. Actually, I'm the whole DNA and blueprint.
Hello.
DNA and blueprint.
And my sister's behind me trying to get in too. So
hello. We kicking the door full throttle, and you about to get Foxy Brown with a little Suge Knight peppering in there for that one. Okay, sorry. That's the first thing that came to mind. But we're going to keep it classy with the bang. All right. So just like that, family. And listen, if you thought Yaritza was penetrating, she's only 1 year in, but she's got a lifetime to go of impact globally, locally, inspiring educators, families, and teachers, Black and brown and otherwise, to stay connected and rooted in EdTech as a way to access and leverage connection and upward mobility. Our convo reminded us that transformation doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it flutters in softly but powerfully, like a mariposita, a small butterfly, reminding us of freedom, rebirth, and the joy of becoming. Yaritza actually means butterfly in Spanish, and she continues to prove that when you spread your wings with purpose, the world opens up. From Brooklyn classrooms to keynote stages across continents, she's turning hope into action and adventure into education. So here's to new beginnings, to growth, and to every listener out there daring to transform your own story. Here you are, stay unresolved. Any closing remarks for our listening community?
Really, after that closing, well, thank you for having me. This has been fun. But every single aspect of this conversation should be taken serious. Whether we were laughing and joking or playing, we are at a critical time right now in our communities where our students are being pushed out, right? Physically, and mentally, they're being excluded from opportunities. And so parents, this is a time where you stand up and you advocate for your child and for everyone else's kids, because we have a couple of years ahead of us that is going to be very hard.
Very hard. And if you're looking again for that shining light to help you guide your path towards this work, at McKenzies Adventures, at Yaritza.v__. She works with P-Tech. She's in Uniondale. She's in Nigeria. So you got to catch her when you can catch her, because her passport has receipts, like we say. And so just like that, until next time, stay dope, stay disruptive, and keep it unresolved. Peace y saludos.